Athletic, outstanding NBA writer, Anthony Slater. How are you today, Anthony?
I am good. I'm a stop 5 of a 6-game trip, and I gotta experience some Dallas arena tonight, which I know the Kings got that up close the other day. But it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to see the Mavericks fans tonight.
Yeah, strange goings on there. I wanted to get your opinion here before we go any further on a nickname for the big duo. You know, we saw for the first time Sabonis and Valanciunas on the floor at the same time against those Mavs, and it worked out, and Kings fans are excited about that. So Drapes has the call tonight, so I've been working on nicknames for him if you wanted to use any. So we had a poll today. The top vote getters here are Lithuanian Lumber, King Size Combo, Crash Brothers, and the Snub and his Sub. And I'm just wondering, Anthony, if any of those do anything for you. And if not, that's fine. We move on. But do any of those do anything for you?
The last one is it's kind of funny. It's a little demeaning to both of them. But I actually like the first one because my first thought when you were mentioning nickname, before you even rattled them off, was it's got to be something Lithuanian.
Yeah.
And then Lumber fits because they're both kind of grind type big men, and honestly, Valanciunas looks just like a lumber worker, doesn't he?
He does. He does.
So to me, that's the one.
Yeah, that's the top vote getter too.
Yeah.
All right, Whitey coming with the hard hitting questions right off the jump here. Slate, who knew? Slate, when you look at this Kings team, man, one of the things I said last segment was Doug Christie. They're making it difficult on him in this respect. Down the stretch, who do you play? Who's your closing lineup? Essentially, with how well Keon is playing, you have 6 starters, if you will. How do you see that, and how difficult do you think that is for Doug to navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, but it's not like the worst problem to have, right? If you feel like you got 6 starters, better than the other way around where you feel like you got 3 or 4 guys and you're just searching. It can be anybody on any given night because you just are searching for somebody that's playing decent. But particularly if you have a difficult perimeter matchup or Ellis is having one of those type of deflection heavy games defensively, I think you could probably just choose your coldest offensive player, right? If it's Monk, Levine, or DeRozan, who's impacting the least on that given night. Like the other night, clearly you're obviously not taking DeRozan out, right?
Right.
But there's going to be nights that DeRozan maybe he's 3 of 10 shooting and he's a little bit out of the offense for whatever reason, and Levine's really hot, and maybe you could close with Ellis over DeRozan, or Malik Monk has cold nights, right? We've seen Malik Monk go 1 of 10 shooting. Maybe it's something like that where you just kind of choose on any given night on a closing lineup, and maybe some nights you just keep Keon Ellis on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
But that requires buy-in from particularly the veterans, your starters, and to get buy-in from those type of guys, you need to win. So as long as winning is happening, I think that all sides would probably be fine with it. But like you said, it's difficult, and to be honest, especially considering Doug's an interim, and there are a lot of personalities. Typically, Ty goes to the veterans, and Ty probably goes away from Keon Ellis.
Anthony Slater with us. And another thing people are wondering about, Anthony, as the Kings sort out the new players and figure out the roster and rotations. Malik's done a great job playing point guard, but that load is even heavier now for him without Fox, and he hasn't done a lot. There have been a lot of turnovers, and some of that is because the players aren't used to each other. So my question here, they've got a couple of roster spots left. Should they, in your opinion, in the buyout market, be looking for more of a true point guard?
Sure, but I don't know. I'm always super skeptical in the buyout market. It doesn't seem like anybody's popping free. The buyout market is less flush than it used to be, also because of all the new rules with the aprons and most of the. Typically a buyout is worked out prior to the guy even getting officially cut, right? And I just think it's going to be even cooler than ever because typically, you have a guy that's looking for a championship contender in a glamour market, and he'll get out of his money. Sometimes he'll give money back because he wants to go, especially the bigger name buyout guys, because he wants to go to that team. But the problem is those teams now aren't able to sign buyout guys if they are making a certain amount of money because of these apron rules. So I could just see those guys not actually, becoming a buyout candidate. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you guys have looked at theoretical, names. I'm sure a guy like Malcolm Brogdon would appeal. I'm not sure he's going to get bought out. But is there anybody that pops up to y'all that you actually think would be kind of like a difference maker?
I don't know what
I don't know about difference.
Yeah. I mean, you got like Reggie Jackson, Markelle Fultz, Isaiah Thomas. Those are names that you notice, but to your point, I mean, do they make any sense? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like Isaiah Thomas, like it's fun to think about, right? But like, should Isaiah Thomas be getting minutes over Devin Carter or Keon Ellis or, you know, in the backcourt? I mean, no, right? You know, the team's weakness, as you mentioned, is point guard. They traded away their star point guard and didn't get a point guard back necessarily. But I think they need to see more of what they have in Carter, right? That was an important thing that, you know, an important asset that they used on him, 12th overall pick. And like, you know, you just like, this is your team. These are your highly paid guys. I think Malik Monk has shown enough. I think Malik kind of wants a stint as, you know, a team's starting point guard, and you're going to kind of go down with the ship. Certainly not anybody you're going to find out there on the buyout market.
Hey, Slates, you brought up Anthony Devin Carter. Excuse me, I'm thinking of his dad. When you look at Devin Carter, he's not with the team right now, with the G League squad. A lot of people thought, man, you know, he might be some sort of savior. Wait till Devin Carter comes and joins the squad. What do you make of the plan for him here going forward? And does serve playing time in the G League actually serve him? Do you think that's the right move?
I think it probably does. You know, it's really difficult for a rookie to not get a training camp and not get a first few months and then be dropped in the middle of an NBA season. Y'all know these guys these teams don't actually practice in the middle of the season. Like, they might have one or two tough practices coming out of the All-Star break just because they'll get a week off and you kind of want to get the legs going. But for a young player who needs reps, it's really difficult to just, you know, basically, like I said, like, you know, get shots up and then play 12 minutes in a backup role, and then get shots up, play 12 minutes. Like, it oftentimes can be better to play 30 minutes, you know, in Stockton, or sometimes the G League team, because they have an important NBA player assigned to them, will go through a really hard practice because they have a more spaced out schedule. So I get the idea for his developmental purposes, getting him down there, because it's just, you know, it'll, you know, bump his developmental clock up. As far as him, you know, I worry about his long-term offensive ceiling, the shot. You know, we'll see. I'm not sure how much of a believer, you know, in him getting it off like he needs to. It's kind of a moon ball.
Yep.
I do see some potential defensively, but to me right now it seems a little bit more like a third guard, which, you know, it's okay. I mean, it wasn't a great draft, right? But there were still guys there. Jared McCain's obviously one, although he's out for the season. That maybe they could have drafted otherwise, but I wouldn't mind seeing him in an NBA rotation. But again, like, they know more than we know, and if they just feel like 30 minutes of Stockton's more important right now to get him better, that's what really matters. Is that Devin Carter is his best self to me entering training camp next season, because that's the first time I really see him making an impact, is when he gets a full training camp, maybe heading into his second year.
Slates, the Kings are maybe starting to feel a little bit better about themselves here. They've won 2 in a row, but you look at the standings, of course, and the Warriors they have the same record. I think we spoke to you last week, moments before we found out about the Jimmy Butler situation. Yeah. How excited are they? How optimistic are they? And should they be that that's actually gonna work for them?
I mean, they're better. They just really needed a better second best player, and they got one. And he's coming motivated. And, you know, it's funny, but I did talk to you all when I was in Utah about to walk over to the arena. And I got to the arena and started to hear rumblings. And then Andrew Wiggins is looking over at me during pregame warmup, like, what's going on over there? And then they're telling half their team they're traded, basically. It was a wild night.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think losing Wiggins, like, stung a lot of the people who've been on the ground level for 4 years. But the vibes have turned quickly. I've been around them their last 2 games, and Jimmy Butler's just doing stuff they didn't have. He got to the free throw line 28 times in his first 2 games. That's the most by any Warriors player since Durant in 2018. He's getting to the rim. Steph Curry's talking about how much easier offensive life is for him. I do not think that they are leaped into a tier of, like, you know, true contention, but they're better, and they believe more, and they're coming to the arena. Draymond and Steph particularly, you know, stronger belief that they kind of have the artillery around them, and that's Jimmy Butler. It's an attitude thing, and sure, maybe over the long term, this won't necessarily end that well, because Jimmy Butler and his franchises haven't ended that well, right? Miami didn't, Minnesota didn't, Chicago didn't really, Philly you could argue, but but the truth is, what else has Jimmy Butler done for those franchises? He got to the Timberwolves to the playoffs after a long, long drought. He got Miami, a really kind of an under-talented Miami team, to the finals a couple of times. He was one of Chicago's best players over the last 15 years. So he is a talent, and he is an attitude that they were lacking. And I think they're significantly more dangerous than they were last week. And them and the Kings, to me, seem to be those two teams in that pocket on the rise. Whereas Dallas is clearly tumbling, and I'm going to see the Warriors play Dallas tonight. Dallas will not have a center. Phoenix is clearly on the decline, and I wonder about Minnesota and the Clippers above the Kings and the Warriors right now. And if these two Northern California teams, who seem like they're trending upward, and I do think the Kings 2 Pelicans games are really important, right? Get those two.
Yeah.
And then I think maybe we're talking about a 7-8 playing game. Maybe one of these teams can flip into the 6. It does seem like these two teams are destined to face off in the play-in again, though, doesn't it? Just every year now, it's just they got elimination games against each other.
Slate's my last question, man, and fans going to get on me. Maybe I'm crazy. Are the Lakers, how should I put this, flying under the radar as a contender? Ooh. Not flying under the radar in terms of talk and chatter, but can they actually be a contender in the West? Like, they won 9 out of 10. Should we take them seriously?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point they're likely to be like a 3 or 4 seed, which would give them home court in the first round, which would get them probably towards like maybe a second round matchup with like the Thunder, where again I would pick the Thunder. I'd pick the Thunder over everybody right now, considering the product they're putting on the floor. But in most series, they're going to have the 2 best players, right? LeBron and Luka, who always raise their game in the playoffs. We know it fits. Now you wonder about their depth. Austin Reeves is their 3rd best player, which that's a very good 3rd best perimeter player. But their defense, particularly their interior defense, is of concern. Their center rotation, especially now that they rescinded the Mark Williams trade. I mean, you're talking about Jackson Hayes, and I'm sure you guys have loved the Alex Lynn talk. Like there's Lakers people, there's Lakers people like, I saw that somebody put out highlights of him in Atlanta, which was like 4 stops ago. Like they might have got one in Alex Lynn, and Alex Lynn was like hitting threes. I'm like, I'm not sure they know what. So my point is, if Alex Lynn's playing 20 minutes, like there's going to be holes in that rotation. But at the same time, you're entering a playoff series, game 1, and LeBron and Luka are on the other side. Like, that team certainly has a shot, and I think to your point, Kyle, that maybe collectively we are underrating how dangerous they could be in the playoffs.
Thanks, Slice. We appreciate it. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the All-Star weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, fellas.
Yeah.